with all due respect to Jay-Z, there's an awful lot of pictures of you running around in your undies at parties with Diddy.
Where the boys at?
Welcome to new viral drama, where Hollywood's filthiest secrets don't get buried. They get blasted on full volume, no filter, for the entire world to hear. Before we jump in, let's make something clear. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. What you're about to hear is no Hollywood script. It's the real, raw federal courtroom testimony from Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing trial, straight from inner city press coverage. And trust, this isn't some gossip rag recap. It's the stuff careers, empires, and legends crumble from. After months of whispers, bombshell documents, and rising public pressure, the moment finally hit like a wrecking ball. Sean Jay-Z Carter stepped into that courtroom, not as the king of the charts, not as the billionaire mogul, but as a man trapped in the same hurricane Diddy was drowning in, dragged in by loyalty or legacy, no one could tell. Jay-Z wasn't just linked to Diddy, he was named. Court testimony tied him to rooms he swore he never stepped foot in, twisted parties he flat out denied, and victims he claimed he didn't even know. But all eyes were locked on one question. What would Jay say now that the walls were closing in? The courtroom had a tension you could slice with a blade. After hours of legal back and forths, the prosecution was gearing up to bring back evidence from Cassie Ventura's gut-wrenching testimony. Diddy's legal team looked smug. Flipping papers like this was just another PR mess to clean up. Then, the air shifted. The courtroom doors didn't creak open gently. They swung wide, loud, on purpose, like somebody was walking in knowing the lies were done. Jay-Z entered like he'd been summoned. No entourage, no beats, no brand. Just a man finally being forced to answer to the rumors, the headlines, the shadows. This was the moment. Jay-Z wasn't here to perform. He was here to testify. And the whole room knew whatever he said next could blow the roof off everything. Jay-Z stepped in, suited up in a midnight navy fit so crisp it looked bulletproof. That suit didn't just say power, it screamed protection. He didn't look left, didn't flinch. No Beyonce, no Rock Nation crew, no entourage flashing grins. Just him, the icon, the billionaire, the man nobody expected to see here, especially not like this. Not as a witness, not under oath, and definitely not walking into Diddy's courtroom storm alone. The reaction? Instant chaos, audible gasps. One reporter's jaw dropped so hard she fumbled her pen. The gallery twitched like it caught a live wire. Even the judge arched an eyebrow, not with confusion but with alarm. And Cassie? She leaned in toward her attorney with eyes locked on Jay like she was watching the biggest twist drop mid-trial. Jay didn't say a word, just turned his head slow and cold like he spotted a ghost from his past, a ghost he thought was buried deep. The courtroom didn't see this coming. Nobody did. Jay-Z had requested to speak behind closed doors, private, sealed. But the court said nope, they wanted transparency, and that meant everyone was getting front row seats to Jay's unscripted courtroom debut. Now here he was, no music, no cameras, just the truth about to be unpacked, under oath. He walked up to the stand, calm like a man on a mission, swore in without flinching. The room, it transformed. Billion-dollar lawyers, journalists, and music execs leaned in like they were listening to a secret demo that could ruin careers. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud, it was tight, like a rope on fire pulled from both ends, controlled but barely. And his first words hit harder than any verse he's ever dropped. "I want to make it clear," he said, and the room, dead silent. "I came here because staying quiet ain't an option anymore." And just like that, the mood shifted. The courtroom, the jury, the press, everybody froze. Because when Sean Carter speaks, not the mogul, not the billionaire brand, but the man underneath all of it, it hits different. This wasn't just testimony. This was a warning shot. Jay-Z didn't walk in with blanket denials or weak excuses. He came armed with context, and that was way more dangerous than a flat-out no. "Yeah, I got invited to Diddy's events," he said. "Yeah, I pulled up sometimes, but let me be clear. What I saw and what I was told, two different worlds." He chose every word like it could set off an alarm. The defense team started shifting in their seats. His lawyers sat tight, frozen. Was he helping them or about to flip the whole thing upside down? Then came the bomb. "I saw the setups, the NDAs, the phones getting snatched. I saw those curtain-covered back rooms." He let it breathe. "But I never went inside. I never signed anything. But I knew That last sentence, it cracked the courtroom like thunder, because he wasn't just saying he was around. He was saying he witnessed the gears turning, the hush-hush operations, the system Cassie, Dawn, Richard, and others had already described in painful graphic detail. He saw the outlines of the beast, and now he was saying it out loud. Jay-Z turned toward the jury, his tone sharp, like he was calling out the industry itself. You gotta understand something. In this game, there's parties, and then there's parties, and the ones I started backing out of, those weren't about music, they were something else.
You're legendary for the parties that you throw.
I'm a legend, baby, for a whole bunch of things.
Yes.
You need locks on the doors?
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't have to name names. His silence between lines said it all. Jay-Z wasn't just testifying. He was confessing what the whole industry's been scared to say. They weren't just parties. They were systems, engineered experiences, not for fun, for control. That's how Jay-Z described it. Calm, measured, but you could feel the weight in his voice. The prosecution didn't waste time. Did you witness anything criminal? Jay paused, long enough for the room to tense. Not directly, he said, but I saw enough to know I had no business being there. Then he dropped a scene that made the courtroom squirm. 2015, Miami, a party that was supposed to celebrate Christian Combs' birthday. But what Jay remembered had nothing to do with cake and candles. They had masks, he said, not the Halloween kind, the kind that cover your whole face, leather, latex, real weird energy. He described one moment where a man strutted past him wearing nothing but leather straps and high heels. Some folks laughed, Jay said. I didn't, because that man looked scared, like he didn't choose to be there. Jay-Z said he didn't wait for the car service Diddy's team arranged. He called his own driver and dipped, fast. I didn't want my name tied to whatever that was, he told the jury. Then the prosecution hit him with the photo, a leaked, authenticated image, grainy but real. It showed Jay-Z, Diddy, LeBron James, and Beyonce standing in a velvet-lit room. Center of the shot, a man in a latex mask kneeling on a cushion. The courtroom held its breath. Jay stared at the photo, eyes locked in. I saw that moment, he said slowly. They told me it was performance art. Then he added, no smile, no spin. I didn't laugh, and I didn't stay. That silence after, louder than anything he said. Jay-Z turned and locked eyes with Diddy, no hesitation. You knew people trusted you, and you used that. Diddy's face shook. His jaw dropped like the floor had disappeared under him. But that was just the warning shot. What came next flipped the room upside down. Jay dropped a bomb, a private call with Diddy in late 2018, right after whispers about investigations started bubbling through the industry. The timing was no coincidence. Diddy hit me up, Jay told the court. Wanted to get ahead of something. Jay said Diddy told him, they're coming for me. Be careful who you stand next to. So Jay pressed him. Did you do something I can't stand next to? The room leaned in. According to Jay, Diddy didn't deny anything. He just gave a smooth, slippery answer. It's just parties, Jay. Just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to. Jay's voice cracked, just barely, but enough to feel it. That was the last real conversation we ever had, he said. After that, I stopped picking up. Jay didn't play it safe. He started pulling away, fast. No more revolt events, no more joint ventures. He told Roc Nation to back out of anything tied to Puff's orbit. I told my team, keep our name far from whatever he's got going, he said. Then came another twist. The prosecution revealed a 2020 email thread between Jay-Z's legal team and an anonymous insider. The message warned that old NDAs from Diddy's past events could be used as weapons, even against people who weren't involved in the worst of it. Jay nodded slowly. He didn't look surprised. I knew what that meant. That single sentence dropped like ice, because it wasn't just about covering tracks, it was about preparing for war.
Icon Award, the Lifetime Achievement Award, the Key to the City. He had a new album that was coming out, so I was celebrating him with the world. And I just feel like everybody trying to crucify me for it. Like, you was his biggest advocate, you was his cheerleader, but I was just celebrating when the world was celebrating him. So why am I being crucified?
They were gonna use silence as a shield, and I wasn't about to get caught behind it. That was how Jay-Z closed the third part of his testimony. And the words didn't just echo in the courtroom, they exploded across headlines before the judge even called for a recess. Then came the line that broke people's hearts and illusions in one breath. He used to be my brother, but now Now I see who he really was and who I almost became just by standing too close. The room froze, no gas, just a thick, heavy silence, the kind you feel in your chest. Jay sat forward, hands folded, but there was nothing casual about it. His voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. Real pain, the kind that doesn't come from a scandal, but from betrayal. This wasn't just another celebrity caught in Diddy's fallout. This was a man, a father, a husband, fighting to protect what he'd built, and more importantly, who he really was. I need to speak about my family, he said, turning to face the jury directly, because when my name gets dragged, theirs does too. The air in the room shifted. Jurors leaned in. Reporters froze mid-keystroke. Even Diddy, who had been scribbling nonstop all morning, looked up. Jay-Z's tone sharpened as he described the toll all this chaos had taken on Beyonce and the kids. Blue Ivy's old enough to read headlines now, he said. She came to me asking what a freak-off was. The room tensed. That's not a conversation a father should ever have to explain. Jay-Z didn't hold back. He talked about paparazzi swarming their home, about reporters camping outside Blue's school, headlines that twisted lies and half-truths into clickbait, turning his family's real life into an ongoing public battlefield. And just like that, it wasn't about the fame anymore. It wasn't about the money. It was about protecting his daughter from a world that doesn't care who gets hurt, as long as it sells. Jay-Z kept going, voice heavier now. My wife's had my back through everything. But this wasn't business beef or industry mess. This was a nuclear bomb dropped right on my family. He paused, eyes locked on the jury. And the worst part, he said, voice low but sharp, it was all built on a lie. Then came the claim, the one that tied him and Beyonce to that now infamous 2015 Miami freak-off. Jay didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into a folder and pulled out cold, hard evidence. We were in Paris that night, he said clearly. Our anniversary. We stayed at Hotel Plaza Athénée. He handed over flight records, hotel receipts, timestamp photos, video logs, and even eyewitness accounts. The court clerk reviewed the files. The judge confirmed the dates. Everything checked out. Jay-Z had brought the receipts, literally, but he wasn't done. He turned to the courtroom and let it rip. This didn't spread because it was true, he said. It spread because people stopped asking for proof. Then he looked straight at the media section. When did accusations become convictions? When did rumors start replacing facts? His voice hit different now. This wasn't just about clearing his name. It was about protecting everything tied to it. My reputation ain't just mine, he continued. It's my wife's. It's my children's. It's my legacy. I've spent decades building something clean, something that lifts people. And all it takes is one headline to smear it. You could hear pins drop. Beyonce's name had come up multiple times, but Jay was calculated. He spoke around her, never exploiting her pain, never sensationalizing her role. He made one thing clear. He wasn't just defending himself. He was defending the Carter name, and he was doing it with facts, not flash, with proof, not PR. And everyone in that courtroom knew this wasn't about ego. This was about survival. Jay-Z didn't hide behind Beyonce's spotlight. He didn't drop her name like a shield. Instead, he spoke of her as a mother, a woman blindsided by chaos she never asked for. I came here to defend the truth, he said, eyes steady, voice clipped, and to make sure nobody, not even a billionaire, gets to bury people under lies. His composure was unshakable, but the edge in his voice, it was cutting. Then he tackled the next wild claim, the alleged freak-off party at Gloria and Emilio Estefan's Miami mansion, where some claimed he was seen during one of Diddy's most infamous nights. Jay didn't hold back. Let me be very clear, he said, locking in on the jury. I have never, in my entire life, attended a party at Gloria Estefan's house. Not in Miami, not anywhere. Then he backed it up brick by brick. He unfolded a stack of security logs, travel manifests, charity event programs, and a detailed timeline of his movements that week. It wasn't vague. It was airtight. On that night, Jay said, I was in Los Angeles attending a charity dinner hosted by the Sean Carter Foundation at the Peterson Automotive Museum. He pointed toward the evidence, a copy of his speech transcript, the official guest list, a photo with the mayor that made the press the next morning, time-stamped security footage from the museum capturing his entrance and exit to the minute. The courtroom stared at the screen as the timeline clicked into place. His location wasn't just proven, it was locked in beyond a doubt. But what shook the room wasn't just the proof, It was what he said next. Jay-Z paused, looked at the courtroom like he was done playing nice. You want to know the real scandal? He said. It's how easy it is to start a lie and how fast the world runs with it. And with that, the jury didn't just see evidence. They saw the truth getting its voice back. Jay-Z didn't hold back. He called out the shady phrasing, the slick legal loopholes, and the power of vague innuendo. You don't need a lie to be loud, he said. You just need it to be repeated. That one line hit like a slap. The jury leaned in, and the courtroom went still. He explained how his name kept getting dragged into the mess, not because of facts, not because a single witness saw him do anything, but because of past associations. I went to a brunch once, he said, eyes scanning the room. So now I'm guilty by proximity? Now I'm part of every dark thing this man's accused of? He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Jay told the jury how the media spun it all out of control. They printed that I was seen in a place I've never even been. And that one line, it turned into blogs, headlines, TikToks, tweets, thousands of them. No facts, just noise. Then his legal team dropped the receipts, a detailed report listing dozens of news outlets that repeated the exact same false claim. Not a single one reached out for comment. Not one tried to verify the story. The judge reviewed the evidence and nodded. It was valid. Jay-Z looked over at the prosecution, cool and direct. If you're going to drag someone's name into a trial this serious, you better bring more than gossip and guesses. Then came the final stretch, and it got dark. Jay took a breath, looked at the jury, and shook his head. I've been called a lot in this game, he said, but now I'm some Illuminati puppet, a master manipulator, a murderer by association. He let that hang in the air. That's a new one. You could feel it, the shift. This wasn't just about Jay defending his name. It was about how fast lies spread when people stopped caring about the truth. Jay-Z didn't pretend to be blind to the madness online. He stared it straight in the face. He called out the internet circus, TikTok truthers, YouTube conspiracy videos, Reddit rabbit holes, all trying to tie his name to everyone, from Harvey Weinstein to R. Kelly to Jeffrey Epstein. They say where there's smoke, there's fire, he told the court, but sometimes it's just fog machines and YouTube edits. The courtroom didn't flinch. They were hanging on every word. Then he brought up the most twisted accusations, that he had something to do with Aaliyah's death, that he helped orchestrate the deaths of Michael Jackson and Tupac, and that he paid people off to stay silent about Diddy's freak-offs. Not one of these claims has ever come with a single piece of real evidence, Jay said. But they keep getting repeated because they sell. He pulled out a printed Reddit thread, upvoted thousands of times, packed with wild speculation about some secret inner circle involving him, Beyonce, and Diddy. He held it up for everyone to see. This is what passes for journalism now? Then he turned personal. The lies weren't just online anymore. They were in his real life. Family members getting followed, business partners pulling out of deals, death threats, because someone with Wi-Fi and time decided to connect dots that don't exist. And then he flipped the mirror on himself. Maybe I made it worse by staying quiet, he admitted. I thought the truth would speak for itself, but I underestimated how fast lies move, especially when they've got creepy background music and cinematic editing. No theatrics, just truth. And finally, Jay-Z closed it out with a line that hit deep. I'm not asking you to like me, he said, staring at the jury. I'm asking you to listen. And in that moment, the noise faded. Because Jay-Z wasn't just defending his name anymore. He was defending reality. To think, to demand proof. Because if we don't draw the line here, today, then none of us are safe from what comes next. Jay-Z let that final line sit heavy in the air before leaning back in the witness chair. His testimony was done, and in a courtroom where whispers had turned into headlines, he had just redrawn the entire battlefield. As the silence stretched, a new energy cut through the room. The lead prosecutor stood. His name had been floating for days, a sharp, relentless federal force known for rattling even the most media-trained celebrities. The man adjusted his glasses, took a step forward, and zeroed in on Jay-Z. Jay stayed cool, but his posture shifted, ready mode. Mr. Carter, the prosecutor began, tone smooth but loaded. You say you were never at Gloria Estefan's home. You've brought logs, photos, timestamps. That's all very compelling. Jay nodded once, calm, because it's the truth. But the prosecutor wasn't backing down. He took a slow walk across the courtroom, hands behind his back. By your own admission, You've attended events hosted by Mr. Combs in the past, high-profile ones, brunches, fundraisers, industry parties. Jay-Z didn't flinch. Yes, public events, networking stuff, nothing like what's being described here. The prosecutor paused and then stepped in closer. So let me ask directly, did you ever witness anything inappropriate at any of those events? The room tightened. Jay hesitated, not long, but long enough to catch eyes. No, he said finally. I saw celebrities, music, people talking business, the usual. The prosecutor's gaze sharpened. And you never once saw Cassie Ventura at these events? Never witnessed behavior that made you uncomfortable? The tension cracked like glass. Jay blinked slowly. He was being boxed in, and everyone in the room felt it. This wasn't just testimony anymore. This was crossfire. Jay-Z's jaw tightened. His voice didn't shake, but the steel in it was unmistakable. Cassie was around a lot. She was Diddy's partner, but I never saw her in distress, and I definitely never saw the things she's described in that testimony. The prosecutor didn't blink. He shifted tactics and fast. So now that you've heard her claims, coercion, abuse, these so-called freak-offs, you're saying you were completely blindsided? Jay didn't hesitate. I'm saying I didn't see it. His tone stayed solid. And if I had, I wouldn't have stayed quiet. That hit, clean. Director. The prosecutor nodded, then slid in the dagger. That's what Russell Simmons said too. Gasps. The room snapped. Jay-Z blinked, just once, and for a split second, his legendary poker face cracked. Objection, Jay's lawyer fired off. Sustained, the judge said, but it was too late. The implication was already hanging in the air, thick and ugly. The prosecutor kept circling. He pushed the idea that Jay-Z's proximity to Diddy gave him access to more than just industry perks, maybe even access to secrets he wasn't ready to admit. But with no proof, it was all smoke and courtroom strategy. Still, the jury felt it. Some leaned forward with doubt. Others looked at Jay with quiet understanding. Then came Jay-Z's final words, and they cut like glass. I'm not here to protect Diddy. I'm here to protect my name. He paused, gaze sweeping the jury. If I was part of that world, if I even suspected what was happening, I wouldn't be testifying right now. I'd be on trial. He stepped down from the witness stand, adjusted his jacket, calm, collected, but different. And as he made that walk back, eyes followed him. Beyoncé wasn't in the room, but her absence, it echoed louder than any word spoken that day. Jay-Z had finished testifying, but the storm around him was just getting started. Jay-Z exited through the side door, flanked by security, but the courtroom didn't move. It buzzed. Low murmurs, head shakes, stifled gasps. Some in shock, others in quiet vindication. Reporters in the gallery were glued to their phones, typing like wildfire, firing off texts and live tweets. The headlines hit the internet before the door even closed behind him. Jay-Z breaks his silence, under oath. Jay-Z versus the prosecution. The Carter family draws the line. Jay defends Beyoncé from Diddy fallout. There was no waiting for the jury. The internet had already delivered its verdict. But inside the courtroom, the energy was way more complicated. The jury sat silent, unreadable. Juror 4, a middle-aged black woman in a beige pantsuit, scribbled like her pen was on fire. Juror 9, a young guy with a military fade, just stared at the empty witness chair, long after Jay-Z had left it. The alternate juror, he chewed on his pen cap, eyes locked forward, brow furrowed deep. In the gallery, a woman was caught by the sketch artist wiping her eyes, a former bad boy intern. She whispered to a reporter during recess. He talked like he didn't know, but we saw him at those events. Then she hesitated. Maybe he didn't see what we saw, or maybe he just looked away. Meanwhile, Cassie Ventura didn't move. Stone-faced beside her legal team, she didn't flinch through any of Jay-Z's testimony. But when his voice cracked mentioning Blue Ivy, she looked up, brief, quick, not with sympathy, more like curiosity, a question behind the eyes. Was he protecting his family, or just protecting himself? And Diddy? The man who sat like a statue for most of the trial finally showed signs of slipping. His fingers twitched, his jaw clenched, his knee bounced, just once. Jay-Z had left the courtroom, but he didn't leave it quiet. He left it haunted. Diddy tapped his pen faster. His eyes darted across the room, not panicked, but calculating. Jay-Z's testimony didn't just sting, it signaled something deeper. This wasn't betrayal. This was self-preservation. And to Diddy, that meant one thing. The ship was going down, and everyone was scrambling for lifeboats. The judge called for a short recess, but when the courtroom spilled into the hallway, it wasn't quiet. It was chaos. Team Jay-Z came out swinging. He brought receipts. He told the truth. What more do y'all want? But the skeptics clapped back. Oh, come on, he's just protecting his brand. He's been in that world for decades. The tension split the building like a fault line. Facts versus legacy, loyalty versus survival. And somewhere in the middle sat the truth. Elusive, blurry, dangerous. Back at Rock Nation HQ, the mood was tight. Boardroom lights were on late. Phones buzzing nonstop. Jay-Z's camp hadn't dropped an official statement. And the silence, louder than a press release. His attorney, Alex Spiro, gave the press only one line outside the courthouse. Mr. Carter testified truthfully and courageously. We stand by his integrity. But the world didn't wait for legal polish. Within 12 hours, every major outlet, from TMZ to the New York Times, had ripped his testimony apart and put it back together. Some headlines praised him for coming clean. Others slammed it as high-level PR damage control. Meanwhile, Beyoncé's name exploded online, trending worldwide for 36 hours straight. Her publicist gave a hard no comment. But that didn't stop the noise. Some fans went to war defending her. She had nothing to do with this mess. Others weren't so sure. How deep does their connection to Diddy really go? And in the background, the prosecution was regrouping fast. Jay-Z hadn't destroyed their case, but he'd cracked it just enough to force a recalibration. The narrative was shifting, the lines were blurring, and nobody was safe from what came next. Jay-Z had done what few in his position ever managed. He humanized himself, shielded his family, and redirected the spotlight. But in doing that, he accidentally cracked open something even deeper. The industry's favorite game, plausible deniability. The DA's office released a quiet, careful statement. While Mr. Carter's testimony was significant, our investigation remains ongoing and extends beyond any one individual. Translation, this ain't over. And then came the wild card, 50 Cent. Never one to bite his tongue, he jumped on Instagram with a viral jab. A photo of Jay-Z on the stand, caption, "Nice performance, but we ain't forget them brunches, my guy." The internet exploded. Within hours, the post was everywhere. Then came the ripple. Alicia Keys reposted a quote, "Truth cuts through silence." Questlove dropped a tweet with nothing but scales, a fire emoji, and a mask. Even Oprah posted a vague story with the words, "Rebuilding from ashes." Jay-Z didn't fall, but he didn't walk away untouched either. His image took a hit, but not a collapse. His testimony shifted something bigger than himself. Because in a case overflowing with secrets, lies, and NDAs, one thing had become painfully clear. The courtroom wasn't just trying Diddy. It was putting an entire era of power, silence, and untouchable privilege on the stand. Jay-Z made it off the witness chair. But the real fight? The trial of legacy, truth, and who gets protected in the shadows, that's just beginning.